Okay, so what have we learned in this course so far? First, we developed a framework for thinking about how an economy should allocate resources and how we can judge if it's doing a good job or not. That was the first unit. The second unit, we showed that when the market, perfectly competitive market, solves this problem beautifully. Okay, it divides up resources to exactly where they should go based on the technologies we have to build stuff and the preferences of individuals. It's all voluntary, there's no central planning, and it allocates it Pareto efficient. The Pareto efficiency criteria is a weak one because it allows massive inequality, but that can also be corrected via reallocation. And we'll come back to that in a minute. But then in the third unit, we basically said, let's look at all the different ways that this theory can go awry. Okay? We looked at market power. We looked at different models of how people make decisions. We looked at externalities. We looked at public goods. All these different things, when they're in the mix, which they're going to be, that theory doesn't work anymore, and the market no longer allocates resources in a Pareto efficient way. What that means is that you can do better. Okay? And so this last unit is going to be about policy to try to make things better, or policy that is just used to try to extract revenues from the market for good or bad. And we're going to look at basically how the market responds when you have government policy to intervene in it. Okay, and we're going to mostly focus on taxes, subsidies, and quotas, but we'll also cover a little bit of antitrust. Okay. So let's begin by talking about taxes. So taxes are when the government basically grabs part of the value or the sale, gets some kind of revenue for every transaction that occurs. Okay? And the reason that you tax can range from the government is corrupt and wants to steal money to we're trying to raise funds for a public good that is optimally provided by the government and which needs to be funded in a way that involves conscription. It could involve reallocation so that we can get to a better Pareto equilibrium, and so on. Okay? So there are a couple different kinds of taxes. All right? Tax. One kind that only exists in theory is called a lump sum tax. This is a tax where you basically just without any response to people's behavior, you grab some of their income or their wealth, and you use it to do something else. You could use it to build a public good. You could use it to give it to somebody else. The key point is that it's non-distortionary. The tax is the same no matter what decision you make, no matter how much you buy or sell or save or do anything. And so it has no impact on how people act in the market. And so it doesn't distort market outcomes in any meaningful way. Okay? So that's a lump sum tax. It's impossible really to raise a lump sum tax, or at least close to, and they don't really happen very often. More common, we're going to attach a tax to a transaction. And there are kind of two main types. You can have something like an excise tax. Where's my cursor? Here we go. An excise tax is going to be attached to transactions, and it's going to be basically some fixed dollar amount per unit sold. Or you can have like a sales tax where it's some kind of percentage of each dollar, so 5 cents in every dollar of the transaction goes to the government. Or you could have something like a tariff, which is going to be a tax on imported goods, for example, but not other goods. So there's lots of different kinds of taxes. But we're going to basically focus on these guys here in this unit. So for every unit you sell, there's some amount that has to be given over to the government. And there's two things, there's two ways we could go for this. We could say that consumer is liable, or we could say the firm is the one that has to pay. For example, it could be that the consumer is supposed to keep track of however many XYZ they buy, any good, and then they have to pay taxes on it, or it's basically the duty of the consumer to pay taxes on the quantity of this good that they buy. Or it could be that the tax is imposed on the firm, and each unit they sell, they need to send some money to the government. The main takeaway from the first part of this unit is going to be that from an economic perspective, this is irrelevant. All right? Whoever's duty it is to pay the tax doesn't actually matter. Okay? And we'll talk about why in the next video, where we talk about how you model taxes.